Today we investigate the shadow state. We're looking at the secretive men-only society building the new America, the Red Caesar theory they openly preach, and how one man turned the federal budget into a kill switch for democracy. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's their official policy. We are going page by page through the 920-page manual that is now, right now, as we close out 2025, being executed from the White House. If you missed the news drop this week, here is the reality check. The Heritage Foundation has appointed Scott Yenor as a senior director. Now, on paper, Yenor is a professor, but in the deep right, he is something else entirely. The Guardian reports that Yenor is a founder of a group called SACR, the Society for American Civic Renewal. SACR is an invitation-only all-male society, and like all secret societies, they have two faces, the public face and the internal face. Heritage isn't just a think tank anymore. Remember, they wrote Project 2025. They are effectively the HR department for the Trump White House. By hiring Yenor, they aren't just hiring an academic. They are validating a worldview that most people don't even know exists. So who is this guy, and why should you care? Scott Yenor is famous for arguing that the modern world is sick because of feminism. He has publicly argued that we need to roll back the sexual revolution. He has suggested that career-oriented women are medicated, meddlesome, and quarrelsome. But it gets darker. He advocates for what he calls a fertility cult. He believes society should be engineered through law and social pressure to force birth rates up. He's talked about making divorce nearly impossible. And this isn't just a podcast opinion. This is the guy now directing strategy at the most powerful organization in Washington. Plus, Yenor isn't a lone wolf. He's part of a pack. This is where we get into the secret society part of the story. Yenor is a leader in the Society for American Civic Renewal. In leaked emails, Yenor and his colleagues discussed modeling their group after the Afrikaner Broederbond, the secret society that architected apartheid in South Africa. They aren't looking to win elections. They are looking to conquer and rule. Now look at the current Trump administration. Really look at it. J.D. Vance, Vice President. Stephen Miller, Deputy Chief of Staff. Tom Homan, Border Czar. Brendan Carr, FCC Chairman. Russ Vought, Director of the OMB. The media calls them Trump loyalists. But if you open the documents, you see they are something else entirely. They are co-authors. Vance wrote the foreword to the movement's manifesto. Miller's legal group is on the advisory board. Carr wrote the FCC chapter. And Russ Vought, he wrote the playbook for the presidency himself. For years, they told us the deep state was the enemy. They said faceless bureaucrats were secretly running the country, undermining the will of the people. They promised to burn it down. They promised to drain the swamp. But what if I told you they didn't destroy the deep state? They created it. Meet Russ Vought. You might not know his name, but right now, in late 2025, he is arguably the most powerful man in Washington. He isn't the president. He's the director of the OMB, the Office of Management and Budget. Sounds boring, right? Wrong. Russ Vought is the architect of a new system, a system designed by secretive societies, funded by the Heritage Foundation, and executed with a specific goal to turn the American government into a weapon for a specific type of Christian nationalism. Let's follow the money and the power, because SACR isn't just a club for professors. Welcome back to the Unredacted Truth, where we fill in the missing gaps in the world's largest scandals and mysteries. In a world of rumors and theories, my job is simple: uncovering the truth underneath the glitter and the grime. We are exposing a pattern: protection, power, predators, structures built not on justice, but on silence, fear, and impunity. We're not talking theory, we're talking court records, stamps, dates, testimony, and a system that, to this day, continues to fail the public and protect the predators among us. Let's get to it. To understand the takeover, you have to look at the money. And the man who controls the money is Russ Vought, director of the OMB. Most people think the president runs the government, but the government runs on money, making Vought among the most powerful men in America. But he isn't just balancing the checkbook. Let's turn to page 75 of Project 2025. Russ Vought served in Trump's first term, but in 2025 he returned with a new superpower, Schedule F. Vought wrote this chapter himself. On pages 75 through 82, he lays out a strategy that turns the OMB into a weapon. His goal? To stop agencies from functioning by cutting off their oxygen, money. He explicitly argues for the aggressive use of impoundment, refusing to spend money that Congress has already approved. Think about that. Congress votes for school funding, Vought impounds it. Congress votes for FBI investigation budgets, Vought freezes it. He isn't serving the government, he is choking it. They call it taming the bureaucracy. I call it a hostile takeover. Vought has effectively built a shadow state where expertise is replaced by ideology. And for the employees who complain, that's where Schedule F comes in. DOJ's targeting of departments of defense, the Department of Education, USAID, Social Security, Medicare, and the IRS wasn't just about efficiency. It was step one of the 180-day playbook Russ Vought wrote at Heritage. The goal? Dismantle the system, purge the experts, and replace them with soldiers. So while the media obsessed over Elon Musk as a rogue billionaire trying to topple the government, DOJ was actually the battering ram for a much larger plan. Vought didn't build this alone. Look at page 11. This is the advisory board for Project 2025. This isn't a list of donors. It's a directory of the current U.S. government. America First Legal. That's Stephen Miller, now Deputy Chief of Staff. Center for Renewing America. That's Russ Vaught's own think tank. American Cornerstone Institute. That's Ben Carson, author of the HUD chapter, now the National Advisor for Nutrition, Health, and Housing. FCC. Brendan Carr wrote the chapter on the FCC, and now he runs it. Claremont Institute, the creators of the Red Caesar theory. Heritage Foundation, the bankroll. Unlike QAnon's Pizzagate, this proves that the shadow state isn't a conspiracy, it's an institution. And their recruitment isn't happening in public, it's happening in secret lodges like SACR, the Society for American Civic Renewal. While page 11 lists the organizations, leaked documents from SACR reveal the philosophy. They openly discuss recruiting warlords and creating a ruling class of Christian men. The people listed on page 11 are now the people hiring the staff for the DOJ, the Pentagon, and the CIA. They are filling the ranks with men vetted not for expertise, but for loyalty to this specific dark ideology. In their private documents, the goal is explicit. They write, "Our aim is to build and maintain a robust network of capable men who can reverse our society's decline. We are willing to act decisively to secure permanently the political and social dominance of our beliefs." Notice the word dominance, not participation, dominance. In one leaked email, SACR members discussed recruiting men who understand the legitimate, forceful exercise of authority. They aren't looking for voters, they are looking for rulers. But the most chilling detail, the inspiration. In October 2020, a SACR, the Society for American Civic Renewal, administrator sent a screenshot of a book titled The Super Afrikaners. This is a book about the Broederbond, the secret all-male Calvinist society that engineered the apartheid regime in South Africa. The administrator asked, "That good?" Scott Yanor, a key SACR figure, replied, "That's the one." Let that sink in. The people building the staffing pipeline for the U.S. government are studying the playbook of apartheid South Africa as a model for civic renewal. So they have the money through OMB and they have the people. But what is the goal? It's hidden in plain sight on page 35 in Project 2025. Deconstruct the administrative state. That sounds technical, but let's translate it. It means dismantling the agencies that protect you. Section 1 of Project 2025 is a blueprint for seizing control. Taking the reins of government outlines a plan for a conservative president to rapidly consolidate control over the federal government by restructuring the White House, empowering the executive office of the president, and installing a loyal, ideologically aligned workforce. Section 2 centralizes the guns. It shifts the DOJ away from civil rights to focus purely on immigration and crime. It reorients the State Department away from human rights and reshapes the intelligence community to target internal dissent. Section 3 shreds the safety net. It calls for ending Title I funding for low-income schools, privatizing student loans, and gutting labor and environmental regulations. It shifts responsibility to the states, effectively abandoning the poor and working class. Section 4 attacks the economy and the truth. It demands the elimination of all climate and DEI programs. And critically, it targets the media, explicitly proposing to defund the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. No more NPR, no more PBS. They want to cut the feed to independent information. But there is one agency that matters more than the rest, the Pentagon. Turn to page 89, the Department of Defense. This chapter was written by Christopher Miller. If that name sounds familiar, it should. He was the acting Secretary of Defense Trump installed in the final days of his first term, specifically replacing the man who refused to deploy troops against protesters. In his chapter, Miller outlines a purge. He calls for removing generals he deems woke or indoctrinated. And now we see the executioner, Pete Hegseth, appointed to lead the Pentagon. Hegseth isn't just there to manage the military. He is there to break its leadership. He openly advocates for a frontal assault on the Pentagon. He is the living embodiment of page 89, a Secretary of War against the internal enemy. And standing at the top of this demolition crew are the men we saw in the beginning. Vice President J.D. Vance. He didn't just support this. He wrote the foreword for Heritage President Kevin Roberts' book, Dawn's Early Light. In that book, they talk about burning down Washington to save it. Vance is the bridge between the Red Caesar theory and the Oval Office. Stephen Miller. His organization, America First Legal, provides the lawyers to defend the purge. While Vought starves the agencies, page 75, Miller sues them into submission. They are a closed loop, a high command operating on a playbook written years before the first vote was cast. The Project 2025 document calls for the executive branch to replace career experts with ideological loyalists, shifting the U.S. toward a more authoritarian system with fewer internal checks, dismantling or eliminating entire federal departments and programs that affect millions of Americans, from student loans to environmental protections to housing assistance, rolling back civil rights protections and turning the American media into a political messaging arm. Vice President J.D. Vance is the bridge between these new right theories and the Oval Office. In that foreword for Heritage President Kevin Roberts, Vance didn't call for compromise. He praised the idea of circling the wagons and loading the muskets. He is deeply connected to the same post-liberal intellectual circle that fuels SACR and the Claremont Institute. Then there is Stephen Miller, the Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy. Miller runs America First Legal, a group that works hand in glove with Vaught's Center for Renewing America. While Vought handles the budget, Miller handles the lawfare. Together, they form a high command that believes the old American system is dead and a new Christian nationalist order must take its place. And what is the ultimate goal? This goes beyond politics. It goes to theology. In his own think tank's budget documents, Russ Vought listed Christian nationalism as a top priority. They aren't just trying to shrink government, they are trying to enforce a moral order. Immigration. They view it as a threat to the Christian core of the nation. Family. They want to end no-fault divorce and roll back LGBTQ rights not because of freedom, but because it violates their religious order. When Vought slashes funding for the Department of Education or the FBI, he isn't trying to save money. He is trying to break the secular state so it can be rebuilt as a white male-dominated religious one. And when Vought impounds funds or fires experts, he is clearing the way for this theocratic vision, a vision where the government exists to enforce their specific version of religion. This is the Shadow State, a network of SACR members, Claremont theorists, and Heritage Foundation funders, all channeling their policy through one man, Russ Vought. The roadmap was online the whole time. Page 11 told us who they were. Page 75 told us how they would take control. And page 35 told us what they would destroy. The Shadow State isn't a theory, it is a document, and that document is now federal policy. We focused on the tweets, we focused on the rallies, but while we were distracted by the noise, Russ Vought and his network were focusing on the machinery. They realized that you don't need to win every heart and mind to change a country. You just need to control the budget, fire the experts, and replace them with your own private army of ideologues recruited from secret lodges. The Shadow State is no longer in the shadows. It is sitting in the OMB director's chair. And their plan for 2026 isn't just to govern America, it's to conquer it. I am Sonia, and this is the Unredacted Truth, exposing power and systems of corruption. Please help me continue to do what is right instead of playing the political game. Let the truth out. The easiest way to support this mission is simple: like, share, and subscribe. And let me know what you think in the comments. Is this civic renewal, or is it a hostile takeover of the American government? Next week, we shift to Canada, reading between the lines of the Grocery Code of Conduct. We look at the Canadian grocery mafia and the truth behind global inflation and food prices. You do not want to miss it.